So the other day on Facebook, somebody in one of the Greyhawk groups mentioned that when they first started with the World of Greyhawk, their particular folio or box set only had one of the maps. And that got me thinking, what would Greyhawk be like if you only had either the West or the East Darlene map? And that's what we're going to talk about today on Greyhawk Grognard. So this is the view of the Flyness that we're all used to, right? This is the two Darlene maps side by side as they're supposed to be. And the thing that pops into your eye first is the near dive right in the center, that big splash of blue right in the middle of the map. That is what draws your attention. That is the focus of the map. And, not only because it is centered in the map, which it is, but also because of that brilliant blue in the middle of all the green. That is where the city of Greyhawk is found. That is where the original campaign was set. So all things radiate out from that central point, and that defines your perception of the Flyness geographically, right? Because Greyhawk is the center not only of the map but of the campaign in a conceptual sense. And that's how the campaign is organized. Most campaigns are supposed to be set around the city of Greyhawk. That's why that's the only city that got a full box set treatment. That's why in the later years, that's when they would do, say, the Player's Guide to Greyhawk. It would center on the city itself and have some some smaller information about what goes on as you get further and further away. And I think that is a perfect marriage of the visual of the map with the conceptual idea of the campaign, and that is what you're supposed to get. But if you look at it now, assume in your mind that you got a folio used back in 1981 or whatever, and it only had the West map. And for you, this is Greyhawk. You'll see the map now has a very, very different visual dynamic. What jumps out at me is you have this one place where the three major mountain ranges all converge. Right, it's almost like a triskelion, right at the Falls River where Bissell, Valuna, and Ket all come together. That is the visual. It's like the mountains are literally pointing to that one place. And the irony is there's nothing really there. It's kind of an empty area. There's a couple towns and stuff. Mittrick is not too far away, but there's no real campaign focal point at that visual point on the map. Now, what jumps out at me, my subjective opinion is that when you look at this map this way, Kaoland becomes the focus of the map. It is in the center. It's a little south, but it's still in the center. It's the one that's boxed in by the mountains and the ocean. And that, to me, becomes the focal point of the campaign setting when you look at it this way. You have Kaoland and things radiating out from there. And things that are beyond the mountains are almost, they're off in the periphery. Valuna, Furiondi, they're not major players in that Sheldamar Valley area that this view of the map really seems to emphasize, in my opinion. I also noticed that this, for whatever reason, this makes the map look a lot more forested than the full map does. I think that's because there's a lot of open space out to the east, which we'll look at in a sec. But it is a very mountainous, very wooded map when you look at it just this way. And for me, you have these kind of howling, empty areas right around the busy area on the map, which is that Sheldamar Valley, which is Kaoland and the Sea Princes and the Yeomanry and Ulick and all those. So when you look at it in this way, I think it really gives you a different perspective on the campaign setting as a whole, because you could very easily set your campaign in this map and just have a Kaoland-based campaign where Neol Dra becomes the focal point, the capital of Kaoland. There's a bunch of other cities in there too. but you still have that visual of the three mountain ranges pointing to that one point between Ket Bissell and Valuna, which is almost kind of beckoning the adventurers in that way. And that, I think you could have a lot of fun in a campaign like this, where you have a lot of interactions between the Backlunish, maybe trying to get in through that Falls Gap between the Yattle Mountains and the Barrier Peaks and the Lort Mills. So I think that could actually turn into a significant part of a campaign that is set just in this western map that you see. And now, when you look at just the eastern map, it looks very, very different to my eyes. You don't have nearly as many mountain ranges. You just have that one big stretch of mountains at the top. Your eye isn't really drawn anywhere in particular by the graphics. The Adri Forest is right in the center of the map, but it's not a very visually compelling thing. It's not like a lot of stuff is pointing to it. It's not like you get the feeling that stuff's radiating out from it. The most visually interesting part of the map that I see is down in Sundi and ID and down there in the the Iron League states. But even that is just kind of, okay, there's a couple of different pieces of terrain. It doesn't really, there's nothing really visually compelling about it. Now, what I do see in this map is a lot of blue. And for my money, this view of the map, assuming this is the only map that you got when you first got that folio or your box set, if this was the only one that you have, there is a lot of water on this. There's a lot of ocean. And for me, this map makes me want to run a nautical-based campaign, because you've got all those islands out there, you've got that big peninsula, and you've got another peninsula at the top, and then you got a smaller peninsula where Onwal is. You've got these straits, islands, lots of ocean, shallows and deep. For my money, this would lean me to believe that I should run a water-based campaign here. Something where the PCs have a ship, or they're serving on a ship, or something like that. There's going to be a lot of stuff where you go up and down the coasts, where you're inviting them to use all that blue, all that ocean that you see on the map here. That's what I get visually from this. And again, when we think about this, when you look at a map like this, you're thinking, okay, what does the visual tell me about the concept it's trying to relate? Especially with a fantasy map that is basically made up for this map, which is basically made up for a game purpose. What is that purpose? Just looking at the eastern map, I'm seeing the purpose of this is you're supposed to have a campaign that's really nautically based. You're on a ship or ships. There's a lot of stuff going around in that Airdrie Sea and the Spindrift Sound and in the Sea Barrens. All that stuff is really the focal point for me. And the stuff that's happening inland, because stuff like the Great Kingdom and Nyrond and Almore and North Province, they're all pretty empty, right? You've got a couple of big forests here and there. The Adri Forest, again, is smack dab in the middle of the map. But other than that, there's a lot of plains. And that doesn't really draw your interest either visually or as an adventurer. Or as a DM who's trying to bring adventurers into things. So again, there's a couple of rivers that break it up and stuff, but that's kind of, rivers aren't all that visually compelling. All things considered. But again, I think that this map, just taken on its own, really emphasizes the blue. And that's what would make me think that this would be the right place to put a nautical campaign. In fact, this tells me the nautical campaign is going to be more interesting, because on this map, there really isn't that much that's interesting here on land. And again, concept follows form, and the form here is a lot of empty stuff surrounded by a lot of interesting blue with islands and things like that. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little exercise as that was, again, inspired by something on Facebook. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have you ever looked at it this way? What do you agree or disagree with my assessments of what the two maps look separate? Obviously nothing's going to beat having them all together, but I think it gives you an idea of how, especially if you're not even using Greyhawk, if you're just making your own maps, how you want the form of the map to kind of convey the ideas that you're trying to present in the campaign. And that's, I guess, the real point of what I'm trying to say in this video. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will talk to you later. Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.